The warning alarm screamed through every corridor of the Keshrivan's Pride. Captain Threnko stood on the bridge, her 4 arms moving rapidly across the control panels, but nothing responded. The screens flickered and died one by one. Behind her, the navigation station sparked and went dark. "Captain, all automated systems are offline," Navigator Seln reported, his voice tight with fear. The tall Vothri officer pressed his hands against his console as if he could will it back to life. The drift's electromagnetic cascade hit us harder than predicted. Threnko's skin changed to a deep purple, the color of serious concern among her people. She had been captain of this freight hauler for 12 cycles, carrying cargo across the galaxy. She had seen many dangers, but the drift was different. The drift was where space itself went mad. "How long until we hit the anomaly?" She asked. Lane didn't need computers to do basic math. 18 hours, Captain. Maybe less. Without engines or navigation, we're just drifting straight toward it. Chief Engineer Morris clicked her mandibles together, a sound of deep frustration. The insectoid Tetheran female had 6 legs and compound eyes that could see in spectrums invisible to most species. But even she looked worried. "I can get basic power back, maybe even engine control. But navigation? Captain, the systems are completely fried. We would need to pilot manually." "Then we pilot manually," Threnko said. The bridge went silent. Every crew member turned to look at their captain. Finally, Seln spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Captain, you know we can't do that. No one has piloted manually through the drift in over 1,000 years. Our people evolved past that need. We use computers because our brains can't process the chaos. We need patterns, mathematics, order. The drift has none of those things." Threnko knew he was right. The Vothri had spent millennia developing their minds for pure logic and calculation. They had built computers to handle anything that required instinct or guesswork. They had evolved away from the primitive reflexes that once guided their ancestors. It made them better scientists, better engineers, better at almost everything. But it also made them helpless when the computers failed. "There must be someone," Threnko said. "Check the crew manifest. Is there anyone with piloting experience? Real piloting, not just computer monitoring?" Morris worked at a backup terminal, one of the few still functioning. "Most of the crew are Vothri like you and Seln, Captain. 3 Cathrin engineers, including myself. 2 bound cargo handlers. 1 arithmetic and..." She paused, her antennae twitching. "1 human? The salvage pilot?" Threnko asked. "What was his name?" "Marcus Webb," Morris said. "We hired him 3 cycles ago. He's been handling small repair missions outside the hull. His record says he has extensive piloting experience in atmospheric and deep space conditions." Threnko remembered the human. Strange creature, only 2 arms and 2 legs, with skin that stayed the same color no matter his mood. He spoke their language well enough, but he always seemed slightly out of place among the crew. He ate different food, kept different hours, and had odd habits like something he called whistling while he worked. "A human," Seln said slowly. "Captain, with respect, humans are barely spacefaring. They only joined the galactic community 40 cycles ago. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are crude. They barely understand the physics of hyperspace travel. But they do pilot their own ships," Morris pointed out. "I've seen the human working. He has good reflexes. Better than ours, actually. He caught a falling tool last week that I didn't even see until it was in his hand." Threnko made her decision. "Bring him to the bridge. Now." 10 minutes later, Marcus Webb stepped onto the bridge. He was shorter than most of the crew, built thick and solid like someone used to heavy gravity. His hair was dark and starting to gray at the sides. His eyes moved constantly, taking in everything, a habit that made some crew members uncomfortable. Most species didn't need to watch their surroundings so carefully. "Captain," Marcus said, nodding his head in the human gesture of respect. "Engineering said you needed me?" "We have a problem, Marcus," Threnko said. She explained the situation quickly and clearly. The failed systems. The drift toward the anomaly. The impossible task of manual navigation through the drift. Marcus walked to the main view screen, which still worked on backup power. Outside, the drift stretched in every direction. It looked like space was having a nightmare. Colors that shouldn't exist swirled and twisted. Distances seemed to change, even as you looked at them. Debris from ancient ships tumbled in patterns that defied physics. Energy storms flickered in and out of existence. "You want me to fly through that?" Marcus said. It wasn't a question. "Can you?" Threnko asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the screen, his eyes tracking movements that no one else could follow. "Maybe," he said finally. "I've flown through some bad weather back on Earth. Storms in the mountains where you couldn't see 5 meters ahead. Ice storms that killed your instruments. I've done some flying by feel, by instinct. But this," he gestured at the screen, "this is worse than anything I've ever seen." "But you think you can do it," Morris said. "I think I'm the only one on this ship who has a chance," Marcus replied. "No offense, but your people think too much. I've watched you pilot. You rely on numbers, calculations, computer predictions. Out there are no numbers. There's just chaos and your gut telling you which way to turn." Selm's skin turned a skeptical orange. "You're saying you would trust instinct over mathematics? That's primitive thinking." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But primitive thinking is what kept my species alive for millions of years before we had computers. We hunted in the dark. We crossed oceans without maps. We flew before we understood the math of aerodynamics. Sometimes you need primitive." Threnko looked at her navigator, her engineer, and then at the human. Outside, the anomaly was pulling them closer with every passing minute. 47 crew members depended on her choice. "Morris, get the manual controls working," she ordered. "Selm, give Marcus every piece of information we have about the drift, even if it's incomplete." "Marcus." She paused. "The lives of this crew are in your hands now." Marcus moved to the pilot's station and sat down. His hands gripped the controls, testing their resistance. "Then let's hope human hands are good enough," he said. Marcus's hands moved across the manual controls like he was playing an instrument. The ship responded sluggishly at first, then began to turn. On the view screen, the swirling chaos of the drift seemed to shift and flow around them. "Bringing us to heading 270, Marcus said. "Adjusting vertical thrust by 0.3. Selm watched his console, the one that still showed basic position data. "Marcus, that heading takes us closer to the anomaly's gravity well. We should be moving away." "Can't," Marcus said, his eyes never leaving the view screen. "There's a current running that direction. See that purple stream? We ride it for a while, then break off before it pulls us in too deep." Selm looked at the screen. He saw purple, yes, but also red, green, gold, and colors he had no names for. "I don't see any current. I see random energy fluctuations." "It's not random," Marcus said. "Watch the debris. See how those 3 pieces are all moving the same direction? That's the current. We follow them." Threnko moved closer, trying to see what the human saw. To her eyes, the debris moved in every direction at once. Chaos. Pure chaos. But Marcus seemed to be reading it like a map. "How are you doing this?" she asked. Marcus was quiet for a moment, concentrating on a tricky turn around what looked like a pocket of twisted space. When they were through, he answered, "I learned to fly in Alaska. That's a place on Earth, far north." Mountains everywhere, weather that changes in seconds. My first instructor was an old guy named Joe. He told me something on my very first day. Marcus adjusted their speed, slowing down as they approached what might have been an energy storm. Joe said, "Marcus, instruments will fail. Computers will lie to you. Weather will kill you if you trust the machines more than your eyes and your gut. You need to feel the plane. Feel the wind. Feel what the air is doing." I thought he was crazy. But then one day I was flying supplies to a remote village and hit a storm that knocked out everything electronic. I had to land on a frozen lake in near-zero visibility using nothing but what I could see and feel. "And you survived," Morris said. "I survived," Marcus confirmed. After that, I practiced flying without instruments whenever I could. Then I left Earth, started working on colony ships, then salvage work. But the principle is the same. You watch. You feel. You react. Selm shook his head, his skin showing confused yellow patterns. But you can't feel a ship in space. There's no wind, no air resistance, nothing to give you feedback. "There's always feedback," Marcus said. "The way the ship vibrates, the sound of the engines, the way the gravity compensators adjust. And out here," he gestured at the drift, "there's plenty to see if you know how to look." 4 hours passed. Marcus piloted without stopping, his movements constant and fluid. The crew watched in silence, occasionally gasping when the ship passed within meters of destruction. Twice they went through energy storms that made the hull groan and the lights flicker. Once they avoided a piece of debris the size of a small moon that appeared out of nowhere. And through it all, Marcus just flew. Threnko found herself thinking about her species' history. The Vothari had been spacefaring for over 3,000 years. They had mapped galaxies, built massive stations, created technology that seemed like magic to younger species. But they had done all of it by removing chance from the equation, by calculating everything, by building computers to handle anything uncertain. When was the last time a Vothari had to trust their instincts about anything? She thought about humans. They had only been in space for 40 cycles. Their ships were clumsy and slow. Their understanding of physics was elementary. The galactic community had welcomed them politely but not taken them seriously. Humans were seen as enthusiastic children, stumbling around with technology they barely understood. But humans still hunted their own food on their homeworld. They still drove ground vehicles manually for entertainment. They still played physical games where they had to react in fractions of a second. They had kept all the old reflexes, all the primitive instincts, because they had only just stopped needing them. Maybe that wasn't a weakness. Maybe that was something valuable. "Captain," Selm said quietly, "I've been watching the patterns. Or trying to. I think I'm starting to see what Marcus means. That debris cluster ahead, they are moving together. It does look like a current." Threnko looked. She tried to unfocus her eyes, to see the whole picture instead of analyzing each piece. For just a moment, she thought she saw it. A pattern in the chaos. A flow dot. Then her brain reasserted itself, breaking everything back down into individual elements to be calculated and measured. The pattern disappeared. "Your brain is fighting you," Marcus said. He had heard them. "Your people are wired to find order, to analyze. Out here, that's the problem. You need to see the chaos as a whole, not break it down. It's like..." He searched for words. "It's like looking at a painting. If you study each brushstroke, you miss the picture. How do you turn off analysis?" Morris asked, genuinely curious. "How do you stop thinking?" "You don't stop thinking," Marcus said. "You just think differently. You let the back of your brain work instead of the front. The part that does math and logic takes a break. The part that kept your ancestors alive when a predator jumped out of the bushes, that part takes over. He pulled them through a narrow gap between two spatial distortions. My species still has that part working. We need it. We use it every day, even in modern life. Catching a ball, driving through traffic, cooking food without burning it. All that requires the same kind of thinking I'm using now. Another hour passed. Then another. Marcus's hands never stopped moving. Small adjustments, constant corrections. Reading the drift like it was a book written in a language only he could understand. But Threnko noticed something else. Marcus was sweating. His hands were starting to shake slightly. His responses were slowing down, just a fraction, but enough to notice. "Marcus, how long can you keep this up?" She asked. "As long as I have to," he said. But his voice was tight. That's not an answer. Marcus was silent for a moment. "I've been piloting for 6 hours. I can do maybe 12 total before I start making mistakes. After that, I'm a danger to the ship." Threnko checked their progress. They were only 1/3 of the way through the drift. And the worst part, the region where the anomaly's influence was strongest, still lay ahead. 12 hours wouldn't be enough. "Can anyone else learn to do this?" she asked. "Can you teach someone?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Captain, I've been flying for 25 years, and even I don't fully understand what I'm doing. It's instinct, muscle memory, pattern recognition that happens faster than thought. You can't learn that in a day. You can't learn it in a year. It's something you build over thousands of hours of practice. Or something you're born with, or both." He pulled hard on the controls, diving the ship under a wave of energy that would have fried their remaining systems. "I'm sorry, Captain, but I'm all you've got. If I fail, we all die. That's just how it is." Threnko watched the human pilot her ship through impossible dangers, and understood that they had put everything in the hands of one exhausted man from a primitive world. It was terrifying, it was also their only hope. Hour 9. Marcus had been at the controls for 9 hours straight. His eyes were red and burning. His hands cramped around the control sticks. Every muscle in his body ached from the constant tension of holding the ship on course through the chaos. The bridge crew had changed shifts twice, but Marcus stayed. He couldn't leave. No one else could do what he did. Debris field ahead, sound reported from navigation. Dense concentration. Hundreds of pieces. Marcus squinted at the view screen. His vision was starting to blur. The debris looked like a cloud of metal and rock, spinning through the drift in patterns that hurt to watch. There had to be a way through. There was always a way through. He aimed the ship toward what looked like a gap. The Keshraven's pride moved forward, slow and careful. The debris grew closer. Marcus made a small adjustment, then another, and then he saw the piece he had missed, a chunk of hull plating, tumbling end over end, invisible against the dark background until it was too late. Marcus yanked the controls hard to the left. The ship responded, but not fast enough. The debris hit the port side. The impact rang through the entire ship like a massive bell. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered and went red. "Damage report." Threnko shouted. Moraz worked her console frantically. "Hull breach on deck 4, sealed by emergency bulkheads. Port engine losing power." And she stopped, her mandibles clicking in distress. "Medical emergency on deck 4. 2 crew members injured in the impact." Marcus kept flying, but his hands shook worse now. He had made a mistake. People were hurt because he had missed something. "Marcus, it's not your fault," Threnko said, seeing his expression. "You've kept us alive for 9 hours. No one else could have done that." 2 more hours and I would have seen that debris, Marcus said quietly. 2 hours ago, my reactions were faster. "I'm failing, Captain." The ship lurched as the damaged port engine coughed and sputtered. Mora's routed power from other systems to compensate, but they were slower now. More vulnerable. THR in single quotes, KO called a quick meeting of her senior staff in the corner of the bridge. Sal and Moraz joined her, leaving Marcus at the controls. "We need to discuss options," Threnko said, keeping her voice low. "Marcus is exhausted. We lost an engine. We're only halfway through the drift, and the worst part is still ahead. We could use the escape pods," Selm suggested. "Launch the crew in small groups. The pods are designed to survive extreme conditions." Mora shook her head. "The pods have no shielding against the drift's radiation. We'd die within hours, maybe less. The ship's hull is the only thing keeping us alive." "Then what do you suggest?" Selm asked. "We can't keep going like this. Look at him." He gestured toward Marcus, who was slumped in the pilot's seat, his movements mechanical and slow. "He's done. Another 3 hours, and he'll fly us straight into something." "There might be another option," Marcus said. The three officers turned, surprised. They had thought he was too focused on flying to hear them. "But you're not going to like it." Threnko walked back to the pilot station. "Tell me." Marcus called up a display showing their current position and the anomaly ahead. "Right now, we're trying to go around the worst part of the anomaly's gravity well. We're taking the long, slow route because it's safer. But with one engine down and me falling apart, we won't make it that way." He highlighted a different path on the display. It went straight toward the heart of the anomaly. "But if we go this way, deeper into the gravity well, there's a phenomenon that happens. The chaos gets worse, but it also creates stronger currents. Think of it like water circling a drain. Near the edge, the water moves slow and unpredictable. But near the center, it moves fast and follows a clear path." Selm stared at the display in horror. "You want to fly closer to the thing that will destroy us?" "I want to catch a current that will shoot us through the drift in 3 hours instead of 9, Marcus said. "It's counterintuitive, I know. Every instinct says to stay away from danger. But sometimes the only way out is through." Morris checked her calculations. "The math says it's possible, theoretically, if someone could pilot it. But the margin for error is—" She trailed off. "There is no margin for error. You would have to fly perfectly." "I know," Marcus said. "You just told us you're falling apart," Selm pointed out. "You can't fly perfectly in your condition." "No," Marcus agreed. "But I can fly well enough if I only have to do it for 3 hours instead of 9. Captain, I'm giving you the numbers. You make the choice." Threnko looked at the display. The safe route was impossible. The dangerous route was nearly impossible. Both options would probably kill them. But one option had a chance. She thought about her crew. 47 souls, 17 different species, all depending on her decision. She thought about the medical supplies in their cargo hold, desperately needed on Thresher. Thousands of colonists would die without those supplies. She thought about trust. About putting everything in the hands of a human pilot from a primitive world who operated on instinct and courage instead of logic and calculation. "How sure are you?" she asked Marcus. 70%, he said. "Maybe 75. I won't lie to you, Captain. This is dangerous. But staying on our current course, that's about 20% chance of survival, and dropping every minute I get more tired." Threnko made her decision. She had always trusted mathematics, logic, careful planning. But right now, she had to trust something else. She had to trust the human. "Do it," she said. "Take us deeper." Marcus nodded. His hand, still shaking, moved across the controls. The ship began to turn. "Captain, this is insane," Selm protested. "We're flying toward certain death." "We were already flying toward certain death," Threnko said. "Now we're flying toward a small chance of life," I'll take those odds. On the view screen, the anomaly grew larger. The colors became more violent. Space itself seemed to scream as the Keshravan's pride dove deeper into the drift, into the chaos. Following the instincts of one exhausted human who believed he could see a pattern in the madness, the crew strapped themselves into emergency harnesses. Threnko opened ship-wide communications. All hands, this is the captain. We are attempting a dangerous maneuver. Stay at your stations. Trust your pilot. And if you believe in anything, now is the time to believe. She closed the channel and looked at Marcus. The ship is yours. Marcus took a deep breath. His hands steadied, just slightly. Not because he was less tired, but because he had accepted what came next. Success or death. There was no middle ground. Here we go, he said, and pushed the ship forward into the storm. The drift welcomed them with fury. The ship shook and groaned. Lights flickered. The hull sang with stress. And through it all, Marcus flew, his human instincts screaming warnings, his hands moving faster than thought, reading the chaos like a language written in violence and danger. They were committed now. There was no turning back. Either Marcus would save them, or they would all die together in the heart of the storm. The deeper they went, the worse it became. Reality itself seemed to break down around the ship. On the view screen, Threnko saw things that shouldn't exist. Colors that had no names. Shapes that hurt her eyes. Space folded and unfolded like paper in the hands of an angry child. Time went strange. A moment lasted forever. An hour passed in seconds. Threnko looked at the chronometer and couldn't tell if they had been in the storm for 10 minutes or 10 hours. The numbers made no sense, but Marcus flew on. His eyes tracked movements no one else could see. His hands made adjustments that seemed random but kept them alive. He had stopped talking, stopped responding to questions. He was deep in concentration, or maybe something beyond concentration. Something more primitive and pure. There, he whispered. There it is. What do you see? Morris asked. The current. Marcus's voice was strange, distant. It's beautiful. Like a river made of light and gravity and broken time. We just have to ride it. He turned the ship hard to starboard. The Keshraven's pride groaned in protest, but obeyed. Suddenly, they were moving faster. Much faster. The ship shook and rattled, but it was moving in a straight line for the first time in hours. He found it, Selm said, his voice full of wonder. The mathematical probability was 0.003%, but he actually found it. The current pulled them forward. Space streamed past the windows in ribbons of impossible color. They were surfing the edge of the anomaly, using its own gravity to slingshot them through the drift. It was insane. It was genius. It was working, but the ride was violent. The ship bucked and twisted. Every rivet and weld was tested. Down in engineering, Morris' team worked frantically to keep the damaged systems online. In medical, the two injured crew members clung to their beds as the doctor tried to treat them. On the bridge, Marcus fought the controls. The current wanted to pull them too deep into the heart of the anomaly where nothing could survive. He had to keep them on the edge, in that narrow band where the forces balanced. Too far out and they would lose the current. Too far in and they would be crushed. His hands moved constantly. Small corrections. Tiny adjustments. Dancing with forces that could destroy planets. Then the time distortions hit. One moment, Marcus was pulling them away from a pocket of twisted gravity. The next moment, he was pulling them away from the same pocket again. The same movement. The same 5 seconds repeating. He blinked, confused. Was he seeing wrong? Was his exhausted brain playing tricks? No, it was real. Time had looped. They were caught in a moment that kept replaying. Captain, Selm said, and his voice sounded wrong, stretched. like a recording played too slow. Temporal distortion. We're caught in a causality loop. Marcus kept flying. If he was living the same 5 seconds over and over, he would fly them over and over. Eventually, the loop would break. It had to break. It did. Reality snapped back. They were through the loop and moving forward again. But Marcus was breathing hard. That had taken something out of him. Something he couldn't spare. "Stay with us, Marcus," Threnko said. "We're halfway through." 3 hours, you said. "We can do 3 hours." "Not 3 hours," Marcus said. His voice was slurred with fatigue. "More like 2 now. The current is faster than I thought. We'll make it. If I can just—" He trailed off, focusing on a danger ahead. 2 spatial wells, collapsing toward each other. They would meet in seconds, creating a zone of destruction that would vaporize anything caught between them. And the current was carrying the Keshrevan's pride straight toward that zone. Marcus saw the danger. He saw the timing. He saw the impossible gap they needed to thread. The ship was too big. The gap was too small. The speed was too fast. But he flew anyway. "Hold on!" he shouted. He pushed the ship to maximum speed with the remaining engine. The current added its force, accelerating them beyond safe limits. The hull screamed. Warning alarms sang in harmony. They shot toward the closing gap like a bullet. Threnko watched the view screen and knew they would die. The mathematics was simple. The gap was closing. They were too wide. Impact in 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1. They were through. Threnko gasped. She had felt the ship twist, felt something change. Marcus had rolled them, turning the ship on its side at the last instant, making them narrower. The timing had been perfect. Not a millimeter to spare. They had passed through the gap a fraction of a second before it closed. "How?" Selm whispered. "How did you calculate that?" "Didn't calculate," Marcus said. "Saw, reacted, survived." Each word was an effort. He was running on nothing but will now, but his work wasn't done. The current was speeding up, pulling them toward the final and most dangerous part of their journey. The exit point, where the current would spit them out of the anomaly's influence and back into normal space. "Exit in 15 minutes, Marcus said. "Going to be rough. The transition will be violent." "Define violent," Morris said. "Imagine going over a waterfall. Now imagine the waterfall is made of broken physics." "That's what we're about to do." Threnko moved through the bridge, checking systems. Everything that could be secured was secured. All crew members were in harnesses. They had done everything they could to prepare Dot. Now it was all down to Marcus. She returned to the pilot's station and put one of her 4 hands on his shoulder. The human was shaking. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His eyes were bloodshot and unfocused, but his hands still gripped the controls. "Marcus Webb," she said formally, "you have brought us further than anyone thought possible. No matter what happens now, know that you have our gratitude and our respect." Marcus nodded. He couldn't spare the energy for words. 10 minutes. The exit point appeared on their sensors, a bright spot ahead where normal space began again. But between them and safety was a maelstrom. The current hit the edge of normal space like a wave hitting a wall, creating turbulence that tore ships apart. 5 minutes. Marcus began adjusting their angle of approach. Small changes, carefully timed. He was setting them up for something. 2 minutes. "This is going to feel wrong," Marcus said. "But trust me." 1 minute. He pulled back on the controls, slowing them down. In the current, while being pulled toward the exit at incredible speed. It was the wrong thing to do. They should be accelerating, using momentum to punch through. But Threnko stayed silent. She had trusted him this far. 30 seconds. They were moving slower now, fighting the current. The ship shuddered and complained. The exit point rushed toward them. 10 seconds. Marcus suddenly cut all power to the remaining engine. They were coasting, pulled only by the current. 5 seconds. Brace! Marcus shouted. The current grabbed them and threw them toward the exit. They hit the boundary between the anomaly and normal space like hitting a wall. The ship rolled, tumbled, spun. Every crew member was pressed into their harnesses by forces that would have killed them if they weren't secured. But Marcus had timed it perfectly. By slowing down first, by letting the current throw them, he had used the anomaly's own force to push them through. If they had been going faster, the transition would have torn the ship apart. By going slower, they had bent instead of braking. They tumbled into normal space and kept tumbling. Marcus grabbed the controls and fired the maneuvering thrusters, fighting to stabilize their spin. Slowly, painfully, the ship came under control. They stopped spinning. The stars were steady again. Space made sense again. They were through. Marcus looked at the view screen, at the normal, sensible, predictable universe around them. Then he slumped forward over the controls, unconscious. Morris rushed forward to check him. He's alive, just exhausted. He needs medical attention. Get him to medical, Threnko ordered. And someone tell me our status. Seln checked his systems. We're clear of the drift. All major systems are operational. Hull integrity at 78%. We're battered, but alive. Threnko looked at the unconscious human being carried from her bridge. One man. One primitive, instinct-driven human from Earth. He had saved them all. Mark this in the ship's log, she said quietly. On this day, the crew of the Keshrivan's Pride was saved by human courage, human instinct, and human refusal to accept the impossible. She looked at her crew, at the mix of species that had all survived together. And remember what we learned. Advanced doesn't mean better. Sometimes you need someone primitive enough to still know how to trust their gut. 3 days later, Marcus woke up in the medical bay. His body ached in places he didn't know could ache. His head felt full of cotton. But he was alive. Dr. Aishrith, the ship's medic, noticed him stirring. The serpentine doctor slithered over, checking monitors with her delicate hands. Welcome back, Marcus Webb. You have been unconscious for 73 hours. Your body needed the rest. Did we make it? Marcus asked. His voice was rough and dry. We made it, the doctor confirmed. We delivered the medical supplies to Threshmer yesterday. You saved thousands of lives on that colony world. You also saved 47 lives on this ship. Marcus nodded slowly. Good, that's good. The doctor gave him something to drink and adjusted his bed so he could sit up. The crew has been waiting to see you. They have been quite insistent. Shall I let them know you're awake? Before Marcus could answer, the door slid open. Captain Threnko walked in, followed by Seln and Morris. Behind them, Marcus could see more crew members trying to look through the doorway. Marcus, Threnko said. Her skin showed a color Marcus had learned meant deep satisfaction. It's good to see you awake. Captain, Marcus said. Good to see you in one piece. Thanks to you. Threnko pulled up a chair. I have some things to tell you. First, I have submitted a full report of your actions to the Valtteri High Command. They have reviewed your piloting through the drift. Do you know what they said? Marcus shook his head. They said it was impossible. They ran simulations through their best computers. Every simulation ended in the ship's destruction. They concluded that either my report was fabricated or something happened in the drift that they don't understand. Did you tell them I just flew by feel? Marcus asked. I did. That was when things got interesting. Threnko leaned forward. The High Command has requested detailed information about human neurology. They want to study how your brain processes spatial information. They want to understand how you did something their computer said was impossible. Morris clicked her mandibles excitedly. It's not just the Vothary. The Cathrin Science Council is asking questions too. And the Belm. And the Gresk. Everyone wants to know about human instinct. There's more, Sel added. His skin showed cautious optimism. 3 other merchant companies have contacted us. They want to hire human pilots for dangerous routes. They're offering substantial salaries. Marcus blinked in surprise. 3 days ago, your species thought humans were primitive. Now they want to hire us? We were wrong, Threnko said simply. We thought primitive meant inferior. We spent thousands of years evolving away from instinct, building ourselves into logical, calculating beings. We thought that made us better. But we lost something in the process. We lost the ability to handle chaos. We lost the courage to trust our gut when the numbers fail. She gestured around the medical bay. Every species in the galactic community is specialized. The Cathran see in spectrums we can't imagine. The Beln can calculate faster than computers. The Ishrith can heal almost any injury. Each species evolved to be exceptional at something. But humans? Humans stayed generalists. You kept all your primitive abilities because you only just stopped needing them. And now those abilities are valuable, Morris said. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There are still regions we don't understand, phenomena we can't predict. We need beings who can handle uncertainty. We need instinct. We need humans. Marcus was quiet, processing all this. He had spent his whole life being told humans were behind, primitive, playing catch-up with the advanced species. Now, those same species were saying his primitiveness was an advantage. There's something else, Threnko said. She pulled out a datapad and handed it to Marcus. The Vothary Merchant Guild has voted to award you the Star of Safe Passage. It's the highest honor we give to civilians. It's only been awarded 23 times in our history. You're the first non-Vothary to receive it. Marcus looked at the pad. On it was an image of a silver star with his name inscribed in Vothary script. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Threnko replied. But there is something I want to ask you. I've been authorized to offer you a position. Captain of your own vessel. A new ship designed with human capabilities in mind. You would take on the routes that are too dangerous for standard crews. The places where computers fail and instinct is needed. You would have a mixed crew trained to work with a human captain. She paused. It's dangerous work, but it's important work. And it pays very well. Marcus thought about it. He had been a bush pilot in Alaska, flying supplies to remote villages. Then he had been a salvage worker, picking through the debris of dead ships. He had never expected to be a captain. He had never expected to be important. Can I ask for one thing? Marcus said, name it. I want Seln as my navigator, and Morris as my chief engineer. Marcus looked at the 2 aliens who had supported him through the crisis. If I'm going to fly into danger, I want people I trust watching my back. Selm's skin showed surprise purple. You want me? After I doubted you? You doubted me because your species thinks in mathematics, Marcus said. But you were willing to trust when it mattered. That's what I need. People who can think logically when I'm thinking with my gut. We balance each other. I accept, Seln said. Morris clicked her mandibles in agreement. Threnko smiled, a distinctly human gesture she had picked up. Then it settled. When you're recovered, your new ship will be waiting. It's called the Frontier's Edge, fast, maneuverable, and tough. Built for a human captain. Over the next week, as Marcus recovered, he learned more about how the galaxy was changing its view of humanity. Earth was no longer seen as a backwater world. Instead, it was seen as a source of valuable specialists. Humans were being recruited for jobs that required quick thinking, adaptability, and courage in uncertain situations. Some humans became pilots like Marcus. Others became emergency responders, explorers, or troubleshooters. Anywhere that computers and careful planning weren't enough, humans found work. The phrase human solution entered galactic common language. It meant solving a problem through instinct and improvisation rather than calculation. It was said with respect, not mockery. 2 weeks after the incident in the drift, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Frontier's edge. His new ship was smaller than the Kesherevan's Pride, built for speed and maneuverability. The crew was mixed 5 Vothari, 3 Cathrin, 2 Belm, and 4 more humans Marcus had recruited from various colonies. Selm sat at the navigation station, his forearms moving across controls that combined Vothari mathematical precision with human intuitive displays. Mora supervised the engine room, where she had designed hybrid systems that responded to both computer commands and analog inputs. "Captain," Selm said. Marcus still wasn't used to that title. "We have our first assignment. A colony ship is stranded in the Razor Nebula. Their navigation failed. They need a pilot who can fly them out manually." Marcus looked at the navigational data. The Razor Nebula was known for its magnetic storms and sensor interference. Normal pilots avoided it. But Marcus had flown through worse. "Tell them we're on our way," he said, "and calculate us a course. The fast one, not the safe one." Selm hesitated. "Captain, the fast route goes through unstable regions." "I know," Marcus said. "That's why they hired us." The ship jumped to hyperspace, racing toward the nebula and another impossible rescue. In the pilot's seat, Marcus felt the ship respond to his touch. This was what he was meant to do. Not follow rules and calculations, but fly by feel, trust his instincts, and save people when logic said they couldn't be saved. The galaxy had thought humans were primitive. They had been right. But primitive wasn't weak. Primitive meant having instincts that millions of years of evolution had refined. Primitive meant trusting your gut when your brain said it was impossible. Primitive meant being brave enough to fly into the storm when everyone else calculated it. Was suicide. The advanced species had forgotten how to do that. They had optimized themselves into a corner. But humans remembered. Humans still knew how to be afraid and do it anyway. How to look at chaos and see patterns. How to trust their hands when their minds had no answers. As the Frontier's edge dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Razor Nebula, Marcus looked at the swirling storm of electromagnetic chaos ahead and smiled. To his crew, it looked like death. To their sensors, it looked like noise and danger. But to Marcus, to his human eyes and human instincts, it looked like a challenge. A puzzle, a dance. "All right," he said. "Let's show them what humans can do." He pushed the ship forward into the storm, and the Frontier's edge responded like it was made for this. Made for a human captain who could see what others couldn't, who could fly where others wouldn't. The galaxy was large and full of wonders. It was also full of dangers that computers couldn't calculate and logic couldn't solve. That's where humans thrived. In the gaps between certainty and chaos. In the spaces where instinct mattered more than intelligence. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not advanced technology or ancient wisdom. Just the simple, primitive courage to trust yourself when everything else fails. To see patterns in chaos. To fly by feel when the instruments go dark. And sometimes, that primitive courage was exactly what the advanced galaxy needed most. Marcus guided the ship deeper into the nebula.